Hello Internet, my name is Wes and welcome to my channel. This is all about EverQuest 1, which is just such a good time. Specifically, this is a guide on 3-boxing on my favorite emulated server, the Al-Kabor project, or TACP for short. The guide itself isn't super long, but I've included some gameplay footage at the end, so don't be intimidated by the runtime. The part you actually need to watch is pretty short. TACP is permanently locked in the Planes of Power expansion, which is a great place to be in my opinion. Tons of content to explore, but it's before things went all wonky with the new expansions. The other big feature of the rule set on TACP is that 3-boxing is officially allowed. That means that you're allowed to boot 3 instances of the game and play 3 characters at once. That opens up a whole new facet of the game. You can use really highly coordinated strategies that would be pretty difficult for a group of single boxers to implement, and with a good duo partner you can get a lot of heavy lifting done. With the server's population being fairly modest, the name of the game on TACP is all about small, highly coordinated forces rather than like absolutely massive numbers of characters and players. It's often said that limitations breed creativity, and with the 3-box limit you still have to make very intentional and calculated choices about which classes you're going to include on your team. Naturally, you're going to want to push your 3-box team to its absolute limit, but programs like EverQuest that allow you to do like fully automated bot farming are strictly forbidden on TACP. It's one of only a few like bannable offenses on the server. Every spell and every skill has to be triggered manually, but that doesn't mean the experience has to be super clunky. The TACP client comes bundled with an awesome little piece of software called Hotkey Net, and that's what we're going to be using to turn our 3-box team into a nice, smooth, cohesive unit. Before making this guide, I sent an unlisted video to the TACP server staff to make sure that I wasn't advocating for any breaking of the rules. The rules are basically that one keyboard press can result in one input going to one of your character windows. However, swapping between character windows is not part of the one button press per action rule, which means that you can make buttons that will swap you to a character, make an input, and then put you back in the window that you started, and that's going to be one of the foundational techniques we'll discuss. But in any case, I didn't include anything in this video that was objected to by the server staff, and that means nothing in this video is going to get you in trouble. Okay, so getting into the nuts and bolts here. So when you're in your TACP folder for the client that you've downloaded, you're going to see this HotKeyNet.exe, and when you start that program, you're going to get this window right here. So basically the way this program works is that you designate, key presses on your keyboard that it will then translate into key presses that get routed into your game windows, and that allows you to target all the windows without having to Alt-Tab. So if I like Alt-Tab and I want to be in one character, I've got these 3 characters here, and if I want to get to another one I have to Alt-Tab like that, and trying to game like that is going to be very difficult. So HotKeyNet is going to help us with that. So basically what you want to do is make a text file anywhere on your computer and then go to load script, and then I've made this YouTube demo HotKeyNet script and then the scripts I actually use, but here's this one. And then when I go to edit script I can see what I've got here. And if there's any issues you can save a new copy, hit reload script, and then it'll start working based on that. So right now I've just got hotkey F1, hotkey F2, hotkey F3, and the command that's underneath there, and you can see this isn't like a real scripting language, it's like very bare bones, but I've got send-win client 1, send-win client 2, and send-win client 3. So the TACP windows will automatically name themselves clients 1, 2, and 3, and so you can address them with those names using this send-win command. So my first hotkey F1 goes to number 1, F2 goes to the second one, and then of course F3 goes to the third. And you can see now already I'm able to get to these characters a lot more reliably. But that is only the very beginning of the kinds of things we can do. Alright, so you might be noticing that things look a little weird. You can see these borders around here and there's just kind of edges, like not everything is like perfectly lined up here. So this is a good example to talk about some of the other things HotKeyNet can do. So you can see for this L-Shift F12 hotkey that I have set up here, it's going to perform the same operation on all 3 windows. So it's going to target client 3, it's going to remove the window frame, set its position to 0, 0, so the top left of the window is going to be in the top left of my monitor, and then update win just causes it to be redrawn with all that stuff. And then it just does the same thing in rapid succession for all 3 of them, and I don't need spaces here, those are just there. So if you want to add a modifier key to something, like if I hit F12 nothing will happen, but L-Shift F12, you can basically just go into HotKeyNet and it says last key press, so I can see like a modifier key L-Shift, so that would just become part of the hotkey that you're designating. Same with like L-Alt, L-Control, and then if you have a question about anything else, like if I press F12, you can see what that is. So that's how you know like the recipe of how how to define what a hotkey is, just refer to this little key name feature here. So I'm going to hit Control S to save that, and I'm going to reload the script. And now when I tab back around to my little characters here and I press L Shift F12, bam, now you can see that everything is squared up and looking good. 1, 2, 3. Okay, that looks great. Next up is one of my absolute favorite features that I think very few people are aware of on TACP, and I want to spread this message as far and wide as possible. You can see on the right hand side here I have all these vertical columns that have my buffs over here and all the spells I can cast over here, and they're all kind of different. Why is it that way? Well, let's pull up our next code example. Here I've got L Shift F11, and what that's going to do is target each of the 3 windows and do the same operation on them. So this set win region command allows you to cut transparencies in the window so you can see through it. So these first 2 numbers designate the pixel, they're the coordinates for the top left of the box that you're going to be cutting out, and this is the width, and then this is the height. And I can do that more than one time, and then you just set win redraw on and update win, and it'll then do the cutout. So with this, we'll save that. We'll hit reload script, and now when we go in here, if I press that L Shift F11, boom, now we can see all those transparencies are cut in there. And now no matter which tune I'm in, you can see as I'm tabbing around, I can see what all the buffs are on all my characters all at once, and I can see all of their spell bars. Now I can't interact with them. I'm still focused in on, like, if I press F3 and I'm in character number 3, I can only click on the UI elements for number 3. The other ones are just visible. They're not actually interactable. So we're not like sending commands to anything that's in the background. We're still only able to interact with the window that we're in, but just being able to see which spells you have available to you and what buffs you have going on is incredibly helpful, and in my mind just cuts back a lot on the amount of tabbing around that you have to do. I'm still tabbing because we're getting to these other scripts and things. So here you can also do the same operation on all 3 clients to get rid of it. So set win region none, that'll get rid of it. So I have that set to L Shift F10 right now, so I'll hit L Shift F10, and now it's back to the way it was. And there's all kinds of reasons you might do that. Like, I normally play my character, the Druid, in slot 3 over here, but if I wanted to put it as client 1 or client 2, then like it would be out of place for the little cutout system I have here. So if you want to get rid of it temporarily, you can use that command, and this will all be in the file that I'm providing. It's worth noting that this is configured to work in 1080p. EverQuest doesn't really run so good at higher resolutions than 1080p, so you'll probably have to adjust your monitor settings to run at 1080p. If you have an even smaller monitor than that, then you're going to have to figure out your own set of coordinate points that you'll put in here in order to kind of make it work for what you want to do. Another really awesome thing about having these cutouts that I mentioned, if you can see right here, I have the targets for all 3 of my characters all there, and I'll hit Shift F10 so you can see, like, this is my target. Client 3 goes on the bottom, and then client 1, for example, will go on the top. So when you're fighting multiple enemies and you have multiple targets and you have multiple pets and stuff, it can be hard to keep track of everything. So being able to see all your targets really helps. And also, let's say I'm going to cast a complete heal. What I do is put the cast timer on the target window so that when I'm in a different character, I can still see that this character is busy casting and what that cast time is. And knowing when the cast is about to complete makes it so much easier to time events that need to be close together. Oh, and I also have my underwater breathing meter on there as well, so I can make sure none of my characters drown while I'm in another character and I'm not seeing it. The next important thing you want to be able to do in your 3-box setup is to be able to consistently cast certain spells and do certain actions regardless of which character you're in. So for example, typically I can cast one of my spells by clicking left alt and then 1, so that'll just cast my little nuke there. But usually you want to have one character who's kind of the leader of your group that everyone else assists through, so that you can kind of direct the action from one tune and not have a bunch of chaos. That's the way that works the best for me. So let's say I'm running around as this druid and I want to nuke a mob over here. Caveat, my friend, don't worry, the nuke won't actually hurt. Well, if you're familiar with EverQuest, you know that you can set up these little macros. So just hitting the number 1 will do the first hot button that I have on my mage here, and it'll make sure that the mage is standing. It'll assist Haley, so that means that whoever Haley is targeting, the mage will now also target, which will be our little little friend caveat over here. And then I just use cast 1, which will cast this nuke that's in my number 1 spell slot. The reason I've hit it multiple times is because if the spell fizzles, which is a random thing that causes the spell to fail, it'll spam it a couple times. So any automation you do through these in-game hotkeys is, of course, just part of the vanilla game, so there's no problem with any of that. So basically, let's say I want to be able to hit the number 1 key on this mage regardless of what other tune I might be playing. Well, let's go over to our example script. So if I hit L shift numeral 1, it's going to send win client 2. Client 2 is the mage. It's going to wait 50 milliseconds and then hit key number 1. So even if I'm here in my druid, if I press shift 1, now it's teleported me over to the mage, and he's casting his nuke, and boom, it hits Caveat, who was the target that Haley had been targeting. So it kind of allows you to like call in the airstrike from your leader character. Okay, but let's take this example a step further. So if I press shift 1, I'm now in the mage, and I have to press F1 again, or F3 or wherever, to get back to the tune that I was playing, right? But there's another thing you're allowed to do on this server that allows you to extend this functionality a little more. So we're going to input another wait command, wait 50 milliseconds. This, by the way, will be different depending on like your computer CPU speed. On my other computer, it has to be wait 75, so you just have to experiment with it. But we do another wait after the numeral key, and then I'm going to use the restore command. So now I'm going to save this. I'm going to reload the script. And let's say I'm chilling in client number 3. I press Shift F1, and you can see now that guy's casting his thing, but it automatically put me back to wherever I started, which in this case was client number 3. So even if I go to client number 1, which is the enchanter, and I'm doing something over here, if I press Shift F1, now it restores me back to this tune. So it doesn't matter which tune you're in, it'll get you back to where you started so that you can continuously and fluidly control your tune, and it just like sends the command you want to the tune you want. So you can designate any hotkey to do whatever you want. And like, let's say I didn't want it to be a hot button, like instead of being, you know, one of these little squares over here, if you wanted it to just raw cast, you can do L Alt 1, and this has to line up with how your binds are set in the EverQuest game itself, but like this is the default. If you do it that way, I'll hit save, reload. So now the mage isn't going to assist or target anyone, he's just going to cast the spell. So let's say I go over here, press Shift 1, now he starts casting the spell without using the macro. And it can be anything, you can do anything that way. Like let's say I wanted to have a button that makes him sit. I believe I have Z set to sit right now, so just key Z, save that, reload, and now no matter where I am, that makes him sit down. But you might be seeing that we have this little jitter here, right? This little blick, blick. Well, we can actually do something about that, and that's going to be using the redraw command that we explored earlier. When we're doing a spellcast that just quickly moves between the windows, and we see that little flicker when it goes to that character and back, we can prevent that by changing our F3, F2, F1 hotkeys that change between the tunes. So basically, we're going to implement that same like system of cutouts that we saw before on each time we switch characters. But like, let's say we're going to character number 3, we're going to set win region none to make sure the whole thing is showing, and then we're going to do a big giant cutout on the other ones. So if you don't like the way I've set this up, you're going to have to fiddle with the numbers yourself, but this, you can just copy paste it and it'll work exactly like I have it here. So I'm going to hit Control Save on this, and this will make more sense once you see it in action. I'll hit reload. So everything looks the same as it did before, but now when I hit Shift F1, we don't get that flicker. The guy just stands up and does his thing. And that makes it so much smoother to play. And I can, you know, if that's Shift 1, I can make Shift 2 be to have the Enchanter do something or whatever. So there's certain actions that you're going to do a lot. Like when a mob comes into camp, I might debuff the magic resist on this character and then slow the attack speed on this character over here. And you are not allowed to have a macro that does both of those things on one button press. So the one button press equals one character action rule does not extend to switching between windows, like UI stuff on that's essentially happening on your own PC. that you kind of can do what you need to do, but as long as this one button press is a single button going into client number 2 over there, you're good to go. Okay, another really important thing that you need to be able to do is to move your characters around as a group. So right now I'm moving one character and the others would be left behind if I move to some new area, right? So then I can pop over to the next character and move them too. And moving all 3 characters in that entirely manual way would be a little bit of a pain in the butt. So fortunately there's a feature called auto follow. So I can target Haley, for example, and I'll type /follow. And that works, and now I'm auto-following. So if I move over to Haley and I move over here, you can see, you know, the auto-follow can be a little janky, but it's serviceable. It works. And any of the more advanced, like, hacky auto-follows from, you know, EverQuest are not allowed on the server. You can only use the in-game auto-follow system. But we want to be able to smooth this out a little bit more so that we can get everybody following, especially when you're running away from a fight. If you are only running on 1 or 2 characters and one gets left behind, it's bad. So we can do a little in-game hot button here at the bottom. So my hot button 0 over here is going to be to stand in case I'm sitting, target Haley, and then if I have another tune that sometimes occupies client 3, you can put their name in there too, and it'll just select whichever of them is actually there. You can do /follow, and then /pet target is for a specific strategy that we can get into later. But the main thing is going to be stand, target the person you're interested in, and follow. Those are the 2 things you need to have on the in-game macro. Now let's look at the script. Because I want this to work no matter which character I'm using, so we can do a little bit of logic here. So we can do if active win is client 1, then hit key 2, and if active window is client 2, hit key 1. I'm actually going to change that to be key 0 because that corresponds to hot button number 10. And while this is the case in both of them, the reason why I still have an if statement even though they're both the same is that I don't want it to press this window if I go to follow the druid and I'm already on the druid. I don't want the druid to do something unexpected. So I could reformat this to be like if active window is not client 3, but in case it's not 0 on both, which it isn't every time, this makes it a little easier. So I'll hit send and I'll hit reload. So now let's say I'm in client number 1. If I hit shift F3, now I'm following, and then I go over to client 2, hit shift F3. And by the way, that flicker that you're seeing is only because I have another window that's in between the others. As long as you have this desktop clear, that won't happen. But now when I go to number 3, they're both following me, which makes things a lot easier. But you don't want to have only one that's the leader. So you can see down here, I've got on this character the mage follow and the enchanter follow, and I've got a similar thing going on for all 3 of them, right? So let's say I want to expand this a little bit. If we're in client 1, hit key 9. If we're in client 3, hit key 0, and that's how we follow the mage. So we save, reload, everything looks good, and we want to be able to follow the mage, so we just hit shift F2, and F2 is like what I've associated with the mage, and then shift F2 again. Again, those flickers will not be a thing when you're actually in game, but it's because I have other windows there. So now when we move around, everybody's following the mage. Great. But we've repositioned somewhere else. We want the Haley to be the leader. Okay, great. So I'll just hit shift F3, F1, shift F3, and now when we take control of Haley, everyone's following her. And so you might only want to set it up to where like you just have one character that's always the lead, but I find it really useful to be able to reposition from any character. Alright, something else I would like to briefly cover is leveling up your casting skills automatically. So there's very few things that you're allowed to automate while you're totally away from your keyboard on TACP, but this does have a carve out in the rules that you're allowed to level up your casting skills. So basically, if you get power leveled in EverQuest, you gain a lot of levels really fast, and you know, let's say you haven't cast a lot of spells that belong to the Abjuration School of Magic. When you attempt to cast a higher level Abjuration spell, there's a good chance it'll fizzle and the spell won't work because your Abjuration casting skill is too low. So you need to spam cast a low level spell to level it up, and you can do that while you're away from the keyboard. So to do that, you want to make a looping hotkey. So basically we've got hotkey L shift F5, so that's going to send focus win, which is just sending to whatever's the current focused window. Key L-Alt-1. So by default, L-Alt-1 will be bound to cast whatever's the topmost spell gem that you've got. Then wait 5,000, which is 5 seconds, and then at the end it just says do hotkey L-Shift F5, which loops it back onto itself and does this again. And this do hotkey command can be useful for a lot of things. Like if you have a hotkey that's sort of like a component that'll get reused a lot, you can do that. But basically, this will just cast spell number 1 over and over. Down here on this one, we've got something similar, except it's going to target client 1, cast the first spell, wait 5 seconds, then go to client 2. Oh, whoopsie. We'll reverse those and do essentially the same thing. And then when it gets to the end, it'll loop back on itself again. So this would allow you to do that on multiple clients. It's worth noting on here that there's no exit from this loop, so you just have to manually close HotKeyNet when you're done with your automatic casting skill leveling session. Okay, so we've been talking about all these techniques for boxing, but I think why not actually show off some of this stuff? We're going to be headed over to Bastion of Thunder, which is a zone that's a favorite of mine. Part of that being because my namesake Wesley is a mage, and mages at a high level are able to charm mobs that are flagged as being elementals. There are very few elementals in the game, though, so it's kind of an underutilized ability, but Bastion of Thunder is one of the few places where you can actually have access to elementals that are charmable. And of course, they're charmable by the enchanter as well, which means we can charm 2 mobs at once, which is risky. It's a high risk, high reward strategy, but I like it. So we're just going to mash our buttons to get everybody following the druid. And sometimes there can be mobs up there, so I'll go ahead and cast Group Invis. And you can see I'm fizzling a lot. I don't have very good casting skills. But here's an example of why it's nice to be able to see all your buffs at once, right? Boom. Now I can see Invis is on all 3 of those, and if the icon starts blinking, I know that one of the characters' invisibility is about to wear off. And the coast is clear, so that was unnecessary, but you can kind of, you get it. So I'm going to pull up tracking and see what is on here. And hopefully there's something. Okay, so we've got all kinds of mobs that are available. Alright, so we can see on track that guy Gawker Sandstorm is up, and he drops some nice plate leggings that we could put on a little Shadow Knight alt that I have, or we could sell it. We need to keep moving because there are traps here that can blow our invisibility and by dealing a small amount of damage to us, and we don't want that. Some of these mobs can see invis, so we're just going to keep moving. I think right here, that guy can see invis. Yeah, that Jord Krieger, so we need to be really careful and hug this wall. With the auto follow feature, they can get a little squirrely, so you just gotta kind of make sure they navigate around there nicely. Cool. So here we are at Gawker Sandstorm, flanked by 2 loyal guards there. But thankfully, these elementals over here, the Jord Kull, are not as loyal to their master Gawker Sandstorm. So what I'm gonna do is start by pacifying this first Jord Kull. And now you can see the power of some of these techniques coming into play. So I need to get Tash, Snare, and Charm on that guy as fast as possible. Oh, and Mallow. So Tash and Mallow are going to debuff his magic resist. So I'm going to say Tash, Snare, Mallow. I can mash all those pretty close together. And now, let's say, I'm going to have you Charm. Boom. Okay, good. And you know what? I'm going to activate Gina for this because it's a little sketchy to do it without. Great. Okay. And now we're going to do the same thing to that Jord Kull there. We're going to go Snare, Tash, Mallow.
Snare landed. Mallow landed.
Ooh, I'm going to stun that. Come on. Come on, Mr. Mage. There we go. Okay, great. So we don't want these mobs to be right on top of us, because if they break Charm, they're going to destroy us really fast. So I want to pacify these guys as quickly as I can before anything bad happens, and then I'm just going to poke this Jord Prophet for a little bit of damage, and I'm going to bring him over here, kind of away from the group. Well, you know what? If he's just going to be like that, maybe we'll move the group a little bit. We just got to make sure that the Wanderer doesn't come and land on top of us. So for small moves like that, I do sometimes go individual rather than... Alright, so we're going to say Mallow slow.
Mallow landed.
Slow resisted.
I'm going to put Uproar on the mage in case that thing enrages. I guess Prophets don't enrage. That's handy. Oh.
Guard. Guard.
Oh, we don't like that. He's right on top of us. Okay. So you can move pets by having them follow you, but they also will reposition themselves when you send them in to fight a monster. So I'm going to be relying on that. And if they're snared, they won't return to where they started. They'll just guard wherever they are when the fight ends. So we're doing Mallow and slow here.
Mallow landed.
Slow landed.
Jord Tiv, he might enrage, so I might have to tank the last bit on my druid. And these pets have not been haste. Oh. Oh, whoops. That's the wrong person. Who's getting hit right now? Oof, that was sloppy on my part.
Guard.
Attack.
That's okay, this is recoverable. I just kind of screwed up and did a little bit wrong there, but that's okay. Okay, so we'll go ahead and heal up this Jord Call, and we'll have the mage add some pet toys, a little sword and this mask that gives it haste. Cool, and the other one already had it from some other person who did that, so we're good to go. We're always going to make sure that we're targeting our pets so that we can easily recharm them. And Speed of Valen I didn't have up, so I'll just wait for that to come up, and we're just going to send these guys in.
Attack.
So this wasn't like stellar gameplay on my part. You saw I got confused about which of the tunes had broken charm, and so that cost us and could have potentially been problematic, but as long as you're careful and you react fast.
Mallow landed.
Okay, let's Tash and Mallow down, so now we're just going to try and slow this guy. And
Slow landed.
slow land it. Wow, that's like quite good RNG. So now, since we're already targeting our pet, we're going to use our haste spell on him, and that will get this going. This should be a pretty straightforward fight, but of course, like, you know, never say never. And we'll go ahead and heal this guy. I could probably just nuke down the enemy. Okay. Alright, that's fine. Now we'll just go ahead and send a nuke. And you can see when I'm doing those spells, like, we don't get that spell. Oh!
Blue fizz.
There we go. And then we got that charm break sorted out. Because we have like a pretty fast cast time on recharming and the mob is snared, I don't actually have to CC it in any way. I can just, like, through good positioning, make sure that it's far enough away that I just get enough time to get a free cast off. And it's not that simple in every scenario, but thankfully in this situation it is. So we're just going to be able to nuke him down. I might pop one more heal on that call, but yeah, you know, no reason to not play it safe, I guess. We can see this big boss guy over here is getting pushed back on his pad, but usually I can still... and there's that Wanderer. Oh, red charm break. Okay, so I'm going to stun this on my druid since I'm not busy, and send him back in.
Attack. Guard.
Oh, why is this guy? Okay, there we go. Alright, so let's find out what we got. Okay, we got a Spectral Parchment, which is nothing fancy. But we did the thing, right? We proved the thing, and it works pretty smooth. We can dual charm pretty reliably with, you know, a combination of all the 3 boxing techniques that we discussed. And since I'm here, might as well show you one of my favorite techniques to do, which is to make a little mob trap, get this Meletis, and then you see when the two of them are opposite each other like that,
Attack.
send him in, get him to hit the front and the back, and that's the most effective way. You can see how much damage that's doing. Mallow and slow, and then I'll go ahead and hit him with a nuke.
Mallow landed.
Slow landed.
And just like look at how fast that guy's going down, because positioning really helps. Now with Enrage, I'm going to turn him away using my own body. Right now we're seeing an influx of new players from other emulated servers that have shut down recently, which means that it's a great time to join TACP because there's an actual like leveling population that you can come through the lower levels with, which makes it a lot more fun to do the lower levels. Us higher level players really want to see the server population be as healthy as possible, so we're giving out, you know, new starter equipment and buffs and everything like candy, just trying to make the process as easy as possible for people who are coming in. So now's an awesome time. TACP just celebrated its 10-year anniversary, and I fully believe it's going to go another 10 years. Well, if you found this useful, maybe subscribe or just go play TACP. It's a lot of fun. I've got a lot more advanced tips and tricks for my own HotKeyNet script, but I didn't want to bloat this video too much, so I'll probably do some follow-up content for more like niche applications of specific things, like using variables and navigating between hot button pages and that kind of thing. I also plan to make some how-to content on like specific unique encounters and to show the kind of like dying and problem-solving process of figuring out strategies that work with a small number of characters for specific encounters. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed. Have a good one. I'm Wes. Goodbye.